Hello, this is going to be a short video about understanding and recognizing the accusative and the nominative case in Greek. It will not be about forming these two cases because to form them you need to look at the endings. I want here to focus on understanding them, what purpose they serve, and how to recognize them when you see a phrase or when you listen to a phrase. Even better when you listen to a phrase, because language should be first and foremost be understood as oral speech. Yeah? Don't focus too much on the written speech. Now, why do we look these two cases together? You might know that we have four cases in Greek. So nominative and accusative are two of them, and then you have genitive and vocative. It is easier, one reason is that it's easier to explain the genitive and the accusative. The genitive is about possession, and I have another clip about this, and the vocative is about calling somebody. Like for example, Γιώργο, έλα εδώ, George, come here. I can remove George and the phrase still makes sense. It's not like the word George has any relation to the verb. That's the first reason that I have noticed that people have more trouble understanding these two, the accusative and the nominative, than the other two, the genitive and the accusative. And the second reason is that these two cases work well as a pair. It's good to contrast the way you use them, and understanding one helps you understand the other. Now, how to tell them apart? I will start giving you examples of phrases with what we call transitive verbs. Yeah? Transitive verbs. Now, these are verbs where somebody performs an action, and this action has an effect on something else. Usually somebody who does something to an object, like Peter kicks the ball. So we say here the verb kick is transitive because somebody, Peter, does something to the ball. Yeah. However, I will be looking at these phrases today, but said that, this is not the only kind of verbs and not the only kind of phrase you can have, and it's not the only use you can have for nominative and accusative. But it's the most fundamental one, and it's the one you need to understand first. Once you understand this, you can deal with other more complicated things. So how would I say Peter kicks the ball in Greek? Yeah. Okay. Ο Πέτρος κλωτσά την μπάλα. And look, I could just find these words in a dictionary. I could go to a dictionary and find the word, well, Peter, whatever. I could just write, oh, Peter here, just to avoid any, oh, Peter, yeah? I would just write, for Petros, I write Peter. I go to the dictionary, I find the verb kick, and then I find the word ball in Greek in another dictionary. Okay, but if I just put the words I find in the dictionary as I find them in the dictionary, I would write something like this. Peter κλωτσάω η μπάλα. Yeah? And this phrase in Greek would be wrong. And this is something that causes students a lot of frustration because they want to say something in Greek and they have two options basically. Either they look up words in a dictionary and make a little Frankenstein, like the one here, or the other option, they have it Google translated, which is it works often for some basic phrases. For basic phrases, Google is amazing, but if you have more complex phrases or less common phrases, Google is not that good. So how do we make it? I mean, how do I go from the stage where I know the words, I found everything in the dictionary, to the stage where I actually make a meaningful phrase? This is where you need the cases. So notice here, first of all, I did not just say Peter. I said, oh Peter. Okay, this "oh" here, what it really tells you is that Peter here is the subject, is the word that answers the question who. Who kicks the ball? Peter. It also tells you it is in the nominative. Okay, but for our purposes for today, this is not a perfect explanation, but it will serve for today. When I say subject, the subject will always be the nominative. And actually this is true, yeah. This is always true. What I'm about to say right now is not always true, the next one. When I say object, it will be in the accusative. This is true most of the time, but for today it will be always true. So for today, treat these two things as meaning the same thing. The word in the nominative is the subject and the word in the accusative is the object. Treat them as equal. Now, I stick this "or" here to say this word is the nominative or this word is the subject. It answers the question who. It means the same thing. This is why I need the "o." Without the "o", the phrase sounds unnatural and confusing in Greek because we need this little thing here to tell us it's the subject. And then, okay, for Klotsao, okay, that's a different story, but for Klotsao, you would have to find the right person. But in my experience, because most people understand persons, even people who come from languages that don't have first, second, or third person have an understanding of how it works. This most people get it right. The thing that many people get wrong is they forget this "o" here, and then here they wouldn't put the article. So they would either not put anything and say Peter Klotsao Bala, or they would put the article e, which is for the nominative. And this is very confusing for a Greek. If you say Klotsao Ibala, it's ungrammatical, it doesn't make sense, and it's something like saying I kicks ball. Yeah, something like that. Or the ball kicks I. It's very weird. It sounds really weird in Greek. If you say something like Klotsao Ibala. So the other thing here is to put the article that corresponds to the accusative. Now, which are these articles? The articles that correspond to the accusative are these ones. So these would be masculine, feminine, and neuter here, and all these words are singular. And here you have masculine, feminine, neuter. All these words are plural. Okay. Similarly, what have I done here? Okay, let me erase that. This is masculine, feminine, neuter for the nominative. Okay, this is the singular, and below is the plural. Yeah, that's the plural. This, why do we have only two here? Because this is both the masculine and the feminine one. It's both. Okay. Now, the problem I know most people have with that is to memorize them. Okay, it takes time, I understand that. But for now, what you have to know really is that with the exception of the neuter, it's an important exception, if you see a T in the front of the article, it's accusative. With a neuter, you don't know. The neuter has this issue in Greek that the nominative and accusative, the object and the subject in the neuter are the same. Yeah, they are the same. But really think of T, this T here, as the letter of the accusative. This is how you should think about it. The letter of the accusative is this T. So when you see this in a phrase, think it must be the object. Okay, let me give you an example with different articles, yeah, and see if you can find it. If I say I write some phrases, 2 or 3 phrases to give you some practice. Okay, so now you can pause and see if you can find the subject and the object. So the first one should be straightforward, right? E Maria is the subject, Don Costa is the object. Mary loves Costa. That should be straightforward. Now in the the following ones, I did a small trick to show you that order in Greek doesn't matter, or it matters, but not to find the object and subject. Okay. Τον Αντώνη μισεί ο Κωνσταντής, and notice here I put on purpose difficult names to see that even if you cannot even read the name, you should be able to know that since you have this O here, this is the subject, and this tone here gives you the object. Okay, even if you cannot read the name. Yeah, I could write, see here something completely like, okay, that of course I can read this, but I understand that many people who now learn Greek might not have seen this word before. It doesn't matter. And that's an issue that often appears with students. You don't have to understand every word in a phrase to know what is the subject, what is the object. Here is the subject. Why? Because I have this O here. It doesn't matter, it's at the end. The O tells me it's the subject. And here is the object. I could write something completely different. I could write here, I don't know, Borg or something. Like I can make up a name. It doesn't matter. I know it's the object. It doesn't matter, it's at the beginning of the phrase. Tone here gives me this information. And the same here. So let me translate this one. Is this person here, Kara Theodoris, yeah, hates this person here, Borg. Yeah? And here is afraid of. Yannis is afraid of Hatzikyriakos. Yeah? Again, here you understand it from the article. That's the subject. And here, this one here is the object, yeah, because it has tone in front of it. Now, there is another way to identify them if you understand the phrase, if you can make sense of the phrase. So it's a bit different. This one you can just hear it by listening to the word oito and tontinto. You can make sense of it, or you can just by reading it make sense of it. But there is another trick that applies if you understand the meaning of the word, of the phrase. Let's have this phrase again. Ο Πέτρος αγαπά τη Μαρία. Peter loves Mary. I could rephrase that as he loves her. And now I have an accusative in English. Okay? Because look, in English, he and she are nominative. It's the case of the subject. Him and her are accusative, they're object. So if I can rephrase the phrase and say something like he loves her, or in this case it's he loves her, but I mean let's have another one with different genders, like yeah. So Tasia hates Mary. I could rephrase this to mean she hates her. And now I know her, whatever her is replacing, Mary is the object. So if you have trouble, if you understand a bit the phrases, but you still have trouble saying what is the object, what is the subject, you can translate them. Let me give you a few phrases in Greek and see if you can do it. Yeah. So let's have okay, I'll stick to names. It can work with other things. It can work with objects. It can work with animals. But for now, I'll stick with people because it's easier to understand it first like this. Yeah. So you can pause this now and see if you can do the same trick. So the first one is ο Μάριος αγαπά τον Κώστα, so it would be Mario loves Costa, so it would be he loves him. Yeah. So now, if it wasn't clear from this phrase, from Mario loves Costa, now it should be clear that Costa is the object and Mario is the subject. Yeah. And now the next one, η Γογό μισεί την Άννα, Γογό hates Anna, so she hates her. And again, the idea here why we do this is in case you still have trouble with it, and even if you see the English phrase, you're like, what is the subject here? Do this trick. She would be the subject and her would be the object. Yeah, to get a perfect understanding of what subject and object are. Now, the last thing is a quick word of warning. This doesn't work like this with every verb. I hinted at this at the very beginning. First of all, some verbs take more than one object, but this is for another day, not for today. But some verbs, have this in mind, don't take just one object. And some verbs don't always take an object, take just one, but it's not necessarily in the accusative. What we said is still valid for most cases, but not all cases. However, there is another thing that's very important to understand. If you have the verb to be or other verbs of similar meanings, like to be, to appear, to look, to seem, all these give you certain qualities. You look tired. Yeah, you notice this is an adjective. You are happy. She looks very stressed out. Yeah, again, this is giving her a quality. How does she look? Yeah, there is not an action here taking place, like Peter kicks the ball. An action from Peter takes effect on the ball. What is happening here is I'm giving to person some qualities. When I do that, I don't use the accusative. I don't have an object. I have a predicate. Okay, so don't worry about the terminology predicate. The important thing here is I don't have an object in the accusative. If I say something like Peter is tall, and I hope that you can see the difference between Peter is tall, but I'll explain a bit more about this because it's very important. That Peter loves Mary. I hope you can see already that there is some difference here. First of all, let me first explain this and then I'll get to the translation. First of all, here I can do the trick I told you about before. So he loves her. Here I cannot use a pronoun for this word, for tall, because tall is an adjective. It's not about a person, it's an adjective and it's a quality the subject has. It's a quality this person here has. It's not another person, it's not another object. Like if I say ball, Peter kicks the ball. Okay, now here I have two entities, two different entities, Peter and the ball. Here I don't, I only have Peter. Yeah. So here I can say, for instance, in the new phrase, Peter kicks it. Yeah. Peter kicks it. Peter kicks it. But I cannot say it here. Here I cannot replace tall in any other way. I could, however, say, in Greek it's possible, o ψηλός Petros. I don't know if it works in English very well. The tall Peter, that's why I put an asterisk. It doesn't sound very nice. The tall Peter. Or if I had another word, the man is tall. Now it works perfectly, the tall man. So I can stick the two terms together without the verb to be. And notice here I can also replace this is here with seems, looks, appears. Yeah, all of these verbs that I can put here, they also have the same thing. So what happens in Greek with this phrase, Peter is tall? Let me translate this and see if you can see for yourself. Ο Πέτρος είναι ψηλός. So what's happening here? If what you notice is that you have here O and S, and you have an S here as well, you did very well, because the point is exactly this. This is a nominative. In these kind of situations in Greek, you need a nominative. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, look, and I say this because I've seen many students confuse this. It doesn't mean just because I told you right now that you have transitive verbs, as we saw before. These verbs we call transitive, yeah, and where the action goes from somebody to something. That this works the same way with all verbs. Okay, it's important to understand already from now that some verbs connect a person or an item or something in the world with a quality. And this quality is usually represented by an adjective. In these cases, both words go in the nominative. And you can see that the trick we told about before doesn't work because this adjective, yeah, like tall, short, fat, Greek, Italian, any of these words can't be replaced by pronoun. So if you're still in doubt with these phrases, see if you can replace the second word after the verb with a pronoun. I'll give you just 1-2 phrases to practice and see if you got it. So if I say, let's say, my father, okay, my father is old, yeah. Oh no, old is a bit difficult. Let's have an easier word. Short, yeah? And let's say another one now. Mary is blonde. See if you can translate this. So the first one, ο πατέρας μου είναι κοντός. So it's very important here you have this S. That's the mistake I often see. If you don't put the S here, what will happen? People will think you are using the neuter. Okay, but you have to use the masculine because pateras is masculine. That's why you need the S, because pateras is masculine. And here η Μαρία είναι Ξανθιά. Okay, here it's a different story because with feminine words, nominative and accusative are the same, so we don't have this problem. But still, it's important that the gender matches. So η Μαρία Ξανθιά. Okay, and that's it.